Right, are we good? Are we live? I think we are. Hello all and welcome back to the Women's Football Chat Live. WSL action is back from the winter break and we kick off with a huge fixture. This is a game which is usually massive. It's Arsenal taking on Manchester United, but it's got even bigger ramifications today. And that battle for the third Champions League spot, these are the two sides that we expect to be competing for it this season. And well, this game would go a long way to further either side's aspirations of reaching next year's Women's Champions League. So this is a really important game for both teams today. And I think we saw this game earlier in the season. That was a 0-0 draw. It's a very cagey affair. I think today will be slightly more open. It's a bigger pitch at the Emirates. The bigger crowd will give it more of an atmosphere than what we saw at the Leigh Sports Village. And of course, added to that is the addition of new arrivals. I think what we've seen so far this window is two very different approaches to recruitment. A United side who feel that they are in a great position to take advantage of the here and now. They want to go deep in the Champions League. They want to qualify for the Champions League again. And they've made some big business to make that happen. Lea Schuler, by far the standout deal of this January transfer window so far. Joining Manchester United is on the bench today alongside her, Hannah Lundqvist coming in from San Diego Wave, and rumours, of course, of the deal to sign Ellen Vangerheim from Hammarby. So Manchester United with two big signings on the bench today and a third potentially joining in the near future. As for Arsenal, less business really done so far. The only signing is the confirmation of Smila Holmberg. That's a deal we knew about happening back in November. So that's not really much of a surprise. And outside of that, there's been very little from Arsenal in terms of business in the here and now. Georgia Stanway is rumoured to be joining in the summer, but and I think that shows where Arsenal's recruitment is at. It's very much building for the future. Holmberg's not a player that comes in and immediately impacts the team, or at least not in the same way that a Lea Schuler and a Hannah Lundqvist do to Manchester United. Arsenal are building for the future, but when we talk about the Champions League race that's happening right now, you've got Manchester United, you've got Arsenal, and you've got Tottenham. Out of those sides, in terms of who's doing the most business right now, it's Arsenal, who are currently sat in third, of course, but they've got to keep an eye over their shoulder because United and Tottenham, to be fair, are investing a lot of money and building some really competitive sides. Phil, welcome to the stream. Alex, welcome to the stream as well. Phil says, afternoon, I can't stick around, so just dropping a like and saying hello. Come on, the Arsenal. Thank you for hopping in, Phil. And thank you for showing your support, even if you can't be here for the stream. Alex saying, in my opinion, Stanway isn't enough. They need a proper defensive midfielder. I think that's true as well, but I don't think Stanway's a bad signing necessarily. And Omaka, welcome to the stream as well. Well, let's start then by taking a look at the lineups for today's game, because two interesting sets of teams. I think Arsenal's very much predicted. United's predicted to an extent, but we could see a slight formation change for them. We'll start with the host then. Of course, we are at the Emirates Stadium today, so we'll start with Arsenal. It is a 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3 for Arsenal today. In goal, Annika Borber keeps her spot in the side. No Zinsberger and still no Daphne van Dompsla available. Does mean that naturally Borber keeps her spot in goal. In the back four, it's Fox, Williamson, Catley and Katie McCabe. So no introduction of the new signings just yet. In midfield, Marnham and Little with Mariona Caldente. So that'll be Little and Caldente in the pivot, Marnham in the 10. On one side, it's Mead. On the other, it's Olivia Smith. And leading the line, Alessia Russo. Interesting night then for Arsenal. This is pretty much the bog standard side from what we've seen so far this season. What we have seen a slight difference on in recent weeks was Kyra Cooney-Cross coming into the team, Caldente playing a little bit higher, and it was more of a midfield three than a midfield pivot and then an attacking midfielder. Of course, horrible news of Cooney-Cross's mother getting terminal cancer, so that is horrible, and understandably she's with her family, but it does leave Arsenal quite light in those midfield spots. I think it's an okay midfield. I think what Marnham gives you is a little bit more presence in the final third, a little bit more box presence, and I think that can be really important when we think about perhaps where United have struggled so far this season. Defending aerials has been a big issue, and I think their defensive organisation, when it comes to box defending, has usually been really good, but in recent weeks, or at least before we went on the winter break, wasn't great. So potentially, we would have seen Marnham start today anyway as they look to try and target that. The other interesting aspect, Alessia Russo starting. I think in terms of what I would have expected today, I could have seen Russo deeper and Blacksenius up front. What that gives you is someone that's going to run off the shoulder. And I think when you think about how high United's line is, having someone like Blacksenius who wants to make that run in behind does make a real difference. And I think that that's a big loss really for Arsenal is not to start Blackstone. She will have that same impact off the bench, but I'm a little surprised to not see her starting up front and perhaps Russo a little bit deeper. Let's take a look then at the Manchester United side. The side for the visitors, a 4-2-3-1 today. None of the new signings evolved from the off. In goal, it's Valentalis Joyce, a back four of Riviere, Laetitia, Janssen and Sambo, the same back four they've used for most of this season. In the pivot, it's the same pivot of Miyazawa alongside Ziggy Otioma. Noella Toon for Manchester United, she's out with an injury for about a month, so it's Rolfo, Park and Mallard across the midfield three and Turland leading the line. So it's an interesting lineup. What we saw Mark Skinner speak about in his press conference was the potential of using a two-striker formation. And I look at the lineup today and I think there are indications that it could be something like that. Because it could easily be Rolfo and Mallard out on the wings. I think that is probably what it's going to look like out of possession at least. But what makes me wonder what they're going to do here is because when you think about how they use that right-hand side, Riviere likes to overlap. So you need a player on the right who's going to come inside. Now, the question for me will be how they're going to do this, because if it's Rolfo, she's more of a touchline winger. If it's Melvin Mallard, she's more of a natural striker. So I think they'll use Mallard on the right. But what I think they'll do is, rather than what we've seen with Jess Park, which is when she plays on the right, she tucks inside to a very central attacking midfield area. She plays in that sort of right half space. I think what they'll do is push Mallard up front to form a front two when they're in attack, let Park float in that sort of 10 role and have obviously Miyazawa and Ziggy in support, send the fullback forward, Rolfo on the left-hand side, they create the width, Riviere and Rolfo then, and then you've got two players in the box. And I think that could be what United are looking to do now. I think especially with Lea Schuler coming in, they're going to have to manage how they rotate all those forward players. I think especially with Ellen Vangerheim linked. Vangerheim, someone who could play that sort of right-wing role pushing into a striker position. So just a theory, but I think that's what we could see United do based on the lineup. Jess Park, a slightly different role potentially for her then as well, as a token of that. If it is to be Park on the right, in attack midfield, sorry, obviously she's played a lot on the right wing. What I wouldn't be surprised to see, though, is a sort of natural 4-4-2 with two strikers up front and Park on the right-hand side still pushing into that sort of right half space. It's going to be interesting to see what United choose to do. Without Toon, they've got questions now to solve, but I think Skinner is a good tactician and it'll be interesting to see what he decides to do to try and get around that. I think there's clearly a shift in what United are trying to do tactically based on what they're doing in the market. I don't think you go and sign Schuler and Vangenheim if you're going to play one striker. So I think it will be a push towards a two-striker formation in possession. How that manifests itself out of possession, whether it's going to be a 4-4-2, whether it's going to be a 4-2-3-1. Because I saw people talking about how United are going to shift to a 4-4-2, but actually their out of possession shape is a 4-4-2 anyway. They usually push Toon up with the striker, and then they have two banks of four behind that, and they like to be really narrow and compact. So actually putting in another striker, the only thing that shifts is their in-possession shape. And so that'll be really interesting to see what they try and do there. We've not seen many teams operate with two strikers in possession. That's not something that happens really in the WSL. So it's going to be super interesting to see. One team who have had success with it are Man City. What City tend to do is push Miedemar up to support Khadija Shaw. Those two are able to play off each other in attacking areas, and they're able to build up like that. So I wonder if United will do something like that, where they've got someone playing that 10 role who's going to push forwards as a striker, and it will be more of a 4-4-2, and then it'll look a little bit different when they're in attacking areas. They'll push the right winger inside, overlapping right back, and they'll create a sort of W shape or M shape, sorry, in their attacking third. It's going to be really interesting. I think United will be the biggest tactical question in the second half of this season. Arsenal, not a lot changes. Holmberg comes in. She's a like for like, really, with Fox. Doesn't start today. It'll be interesting to see if we see her from the bench, but I don't see any dramatic tactical shift for Arsenal coming, at least until the summer. I think they made their big tactical shift last summer. It's now how do they bring in players that are going to fit that, because they don't really have a squad that naturally does what Rene Slagers wants. But yeah, that's it's going to be interesting to see how United play today. I think this will be a big test. What we saw, I think, in the reverse fixture was that United were very good in their defensive third. Where they struggled a little bit was their ability to play out. But there were a few moments where they almost broke in behind. And if they play that way again today, the advantage the Emirates offers to other teams, and this slightly goes against Arsenal, I think overall the Emirates is a huge sort of advantage for Arsenal. The crowd, the ability to play their wide, expansive football is a huge benefit of the Emirates. They've got more space to work with. They use it quite well. Where it does open them up a little bit is in defensive transition, because naturally having a bigger pitch gives more space for teams to break into, and we know Arsenal want to play high, want to camp in an opposition's half. But if United can generate those transitional moments today, that's where they'll hurt Arsenal. If they can get the ball in behind, they can get runners off the shoulder of those Arsenal defenders, that'll be the big test today. And I think, I mean, obviously Fox is the big one. It's the most important one in that backline for Arsenal for me. Obviously Williamson coming back today will be hugely important, but I think what Williamson offers you is a huge upside in possession. What Fox gives you, though, is those recovery runs, and it's crucial that she's in the side for a game like today when there is going to be that fear of breaking in behind. We've already got predictions rolling into the live chat, so we'll dive into those in just a moment. Ronan asking us kick-off in 10 minutes or an hour. Kick-off is in 5 minutes' time. We're kicking off very shortly here, and the players will be heading out of the tunnel in a moment. When they do so, we'll dive into our predictions for the game. I think it's going to be a tight one, though. Regardless of the scoreline, I don't see either side being dominant here today. If they are, then it's been a very good... It's either been an absolute disaster for the other team, or they've nailed it tactically, and that's going to be really interesting to see. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. I think this is one of the more interesting, or most interesting games in the WSL season. Naturally, two big clubs competing for the same spot really this season. I think neither side is under any illusions that they're still in the title fight. Champions League is the priority, though. It's a mandatory requirement really for both of these teams if they want to be able to recruit next summer, because and kick on obviously into the Champions League. Players coming out of the tunnel now, though, so let's get into predictions. We've got the poll in the live chat. 59% backing Arsenal, 32% think United will win, and 9% going for a draw. So very much an Arsenal majority so far, but still lots of different predictions coming in. So scoreline predictions in the live chat. I'm going to start here in the studio, though. I hadn't actually thought about this, so I'm going to have to take a moment to think. I'm going to say Arsenal 1 and Manchester United 2. I think they'll edge it today, the visitors. I think the way United have invested, there is a clear push they want to play in the Champions League. I know people will point to United's form in recent weeks, but I would attribute their downturn in form in November and December to a lack of options in terms of their starting players, to a lot of fatigue. I think they'll come back from the break and I think they'll look sharp. I think Arsenal looked better against Everton, but without Cooney Cross today, I think that's a big loss. Of course, Williamson helps them massively, but I do just think United will nick it. I'm going to say 2-1 Manchester United. I think Arsenal will open the scoring through Olivia Smith. I think it'll be another brilliant individual goal. Cuts inside, 1-2 from with Russo, then able to sort of curl it far corner. That tends to be her marquee goal. As for Manchester United, I think it'll be goals from Jess Park. She's stepped up in all the big moments so far for United, so I think she'll do that again today. And I will say off the bench with the winner, Leah Schuler. I think it's written really, isn't it? Impact sub, off the bench. First goal for United is the winner in a game like this. That's what you signed Leah Schuler for. So I think she'll come on, and I think she'll prove that today. Alex saying in Skinnerville, we trust. We'll see if he can pull it off. FBL Bailey saying giving a 3-1 prediction. Not sure which way. I'm going to guess Arsenal because he's written it as 3-1. Nonpilo saying 2-1 United win. Brainy saying 1-0, but with a dramatic 95th minute winner. Don't think that works with 1-0. I'm guessing you meant equaliser there, Brainy, but thank you for your prediction. But yeah, should be a very good game, this. Two teams who desperately need to win a fixture like this. If it's a draw, then the winner of this, the best outcome really, the team who've got the best outcome from that are Tottenham. And so these two do need to bear that in mind. But it's going to be a tight one. Neither side can... It's one of those where, yes, both sides want to win, but neither side can afford to lose. If either side loses today, then they've lost that advantage over the other. And in the race to qualify for next year's Champions League, that's going to be really important. If Arsenal win today, they're firm favourites to get that third Champions League spot. If United win today, I think United are firm favourites then to get that third Champions League spot. I think the recruitment they've done already in this January window, there's a clear ambition to get back in the Champions League next season. I think United, if they win today, will be the firm favourites to get that third Champions League spot. Not writing Tottenham off. I think Tottenham will struggle, though, in that March period, the amount of players they've got at the Asian Cup, especially Koga and Hunt. But I think these two are the firm favourites. I think the winner of today's game will put themselves in the driving seat, really, for that role. Typically, as we're about to kick off, my Wi-Fi is struggling. Hopefully, we have no issues there. Not what we want on the return to WSL action. It's been fine for the last few weeks. We should be underway any moment now. Hopefully we have no issues. About to kick off here at the Emirates Stadium. Arsenal taking on Manchester United in what will be an absolutely massive game. As I say, in the race to qualify for the Champions League. We're at a point in the season where 3 points will be vitally important. So we'll come out on top. That's what we remain to see. As I say, poll in chat favouring Arsenal at the moment. Keep your thoughts coming into the live chat as we prepare to get underway. It's Arsenal that will get us started here at the Emirates Stadium. Alessia Russo from the middle knocks it back, and Arsenal gets us underway here at the Emirates Stadium. It's Arsenal taking on Manchester United in this first WSL kickoff as we return from the winter break. And immediately, it's a bit feisty in midfield, but it's turned over by Manchester United. They can go back to Tallis Joyce now. And United able to settle into possession. Important they settle early for both sides, really. But especially given the magnitude of this game. Ball flicked on there from Turlen, not really coming to anything. And that'll be collected by Leah Williamson. Now into Fox, down the line to Mead. Back inside, looking for Emily Fox. And she'll now look to slip it in behind. And Arsenal coming forwards here. Here's Frida Marnham, cuts it across the box. And that's blocked away well by Hinata Miyazawa. Important early intervention there from Miyazawa. Pass now out and collected well by McCabe Little. Into Williamson, across now into Steph Catley. And she'll go wide. Pass now back, looking for Catley. Picked off almost there by Elizabeth Turlen. Just about getting away with it there. Arsenal. And that's the key thing. I mean, Arsenal have struggled at times playing out from the back. And we know this United side are so good out of possession. Such strong pressers. But yeah, apologies, by the way, about the kickoff time not being on stream. Having a few technical problems, but hopefully once they're sorted, I'll be able to sync that up. But we're almost 2 minutes in to the game here at the Emirates. And it is United now looking to come forwards. Sandberg. Throws it into Rolfo, back to Anna Sandberg. Marnham deals with it well, back to Miyazawa. And now Park will be forced back to Dominique Janssen. United moving the ball around well. Janssen trying to chop back inside, forced back to Miyazawa, was dragged down there by Alessia Russo. And so that will be a free kick to United. But yeah, as expected, cagey start to proceedings here. Neither side really able to get a stranglehold on the game in the early stages. Which, as I say, shouldn't come as much of a surprise. And just waiting for the game to work again now. Brilliant. As I say, apologies for the technical difficulties. It does now look like it might work. As I say, typical of the return of WSL action. That is when the Wi-Fi decides it doesn't want to work anymore. But hopefully we'll get the game back up in just a moment. But so far, United being able to disrupt whatever Arsenal are trying to do. And Arsenal not able really to create anything just yet. And then now Sky Go's got a problem. Phenomenal. Again, apologies. Big game in this season. Hope I can at least watch it on my phone. But yeah, what are people saying in the live chat? Who started off the better side? Anthony saying same here, game having difficulty playing. Brilliant stuff. I was pleasantly surprised to see that Sky were doing 30 minutes of build-up. But now, they seem to be having a problem with Arsenal, Manchester United. Which is excellent stuff. But yeah, hopefully we haven't missed too much in the first 5 minutes. There hasn't been a goal yet, I can tell you that much. But if anything changes on that front, we will be quick to know. And if anyone is able to watch the game, let me know what's happening. Apparently Rolfo went close. Thank you, FZ, for letting us know. Rolfo going close for United. So United continuing their fast start to the game. Can they convert this early dominance into anything material? Right, finally, might actually be able to see the game, which is a positive. Thanks to everyone that has stuck by the technical difficulties in the first 5 minutes here. Let's try and get the timer synced up. That looks like a big save from Annika Borba. Right. It's not the first minute, don't worry. We'll get that synced up first. And then we'll get into the action. United coming forwards here. Miyazawa knocking it down the right-hand side. One back well by McCabe. And now Letitia. Knocks it down the line. Here's Riviere, United. The stronger side in these early stages. Wants to take on McCabe now. Looks to come inside. It's stopped well by the Irish left-back. And United's attack breaking down. Out though now. For United throw, and that will allow them to keep the early pressure on here. Mallard. Back now into Letitia. And now Zigiotti, who's dropped in. Sandberg. Across to Janssen. Now Letitia. Knocking it out to the right-hand side. Riviere looking to go in behind. Blocked away well, though, by Catley. And now Mariona Caldente opens up a body out to the right-hand side. Here's Beth Mead. Forced back now to Leah Williamson. Borba. And now Catley. As I say, fairly even start. But United having the better chances. It'll be a big test if Arsenal can actually break in behind in this game, can actually break through that United structure. That game in the Leigh Sports Village earlier this season, characterised really by a lack of chances for Arsenal. Sandras, is Chloe Kelly playing? Chloe Kelly does not start, but she is amongst... I'm not sure if she's amongst the substitutes, actually. I think she's got an injury. But yeah. I think this is probably Arsenal's strongest winger partnership at the moment, though. I mean, Smith's been really good in glimpses, and I think Beth Mead's been their most, well, she's not sort of lit the world alight, but she's been their most consistent winger this season. I think especially in terms of chance creation has been a lot stronger. And Demi Andrews, welcome to the stream, asking, is Rousseau playing? Yes, Rousseau does leave the line today for Arsenal. Riviere Down the line into Mallard, who does really well there to spin McCabe. McCabe bailed out by Little, and Arsenal can look to play forwards now. McCabe into Rousseau. Holds the ball up really nicely there, Alessia Rousseau. Park, though, turns it over well. Brilliant in there from Manchester United. Here's Jess Park carrying the ball forwards. Looking now for a teammate. Is smothered in there, though, by Little and Marnham. And now Arsenal can look to play out. Caldente into Marnham. Wants to progress the ball now. Short of options, though. Does squeeze past Ziggiotti. And now Mariona Caldente. Here's Little. Out into Beth Mead. Williamson. And now Caldente tries to play it forwards into Fox, who wants to poke it forwards. One back, though, by Dominique Janssen. Rolfo. Now Miyazawa. Now back across to Letitia. Miyazawa. Ziggiotti back to Letitia. Finds Park further forwards. Back again into Letitia. United probing, looking for an opening. And back now to Jade Riviere. So it's definitely Mallard starting on the right wing. Park in the 10. It almost looks like more of a midfield 3 with Ziggiotti sort of occupying that right half space and Miyazawa almost as a single pivot player. So United definitely a shift in structure for them today. It's not too dissimilar. They often press in a 4-1-4-1 anyway. But obviously a different role for Jess Park in today's lineup. Used to playing as that right winger out of possession and then coming inside. Now operating as an attacking midfielder both in and out of possession. For anyone looking to find a way to watch today's game, it is exclusively on Sky Sports in the UK. And on broadcasters around the world. So whoever your TV broadcaster is, whoever has the rights to the WSL will have this game. As I say, in England or in the UK, that is Sky Sports. Ball down the line into Russo, now back to Fox. Pass down the line, looking again for Alessia Russo, seen out well by Dominique Janssen. And that will now be a United throw. Deep in their own third, though not much they can do with this. But they'll look to build out from this deep position. Sandberg goes down the line. Fox wins the header, but nods it out of play. That'll be another United throw in as they look to work this left-hand side. Hermie says one clinical touch and United may score early. Absolutely. I think they'll have the opportunities today, United. It's whether they take them. And I think Arsenal's defence has been a little bit open at times this season. Of course, Williamson returning makes them more secure on the ball. But I still think they're open a little bit, especially in transition. Rousseau. Back to Caldente. Now Catley. Williamson. Looking for the forward option. Here come Arsenal now. Little. Spreads it wide into Olivia Smith. Cuts it back. Here's Frida Marnham. Takes aim and that's blocked. Kept alive here by McCabe. Shifts it into Smith, who chips it inside. Marnham can't hold on to it and that's cleared away well by Jess Park. Right. The TV is working again, which is a relief. So we are now 10 seconds ahead of that timer. Fox darts inside well. Here come Arsenal. Ball across for Rousseau, who can't quite bring it under her control. Letizier's assertive. And Arsenal do call for a penalty, but it's not given. And now it's United who look to break away. Fox does really well to get back in there. Oh, and I may have spoken too soon, because typically, as soon as I think the TV's working, it stops again. Good job I didn't change the timer. But there we go. Arsenal's best opportunity in the game, really, breaking into the United third. Unable to do anything with it, though. Alokas asks, does anyone know how many players Arsenal's re-signed so far? I believe Cooney Cross and Caldente have both signed one-year extensions. Apart from that, I don't think Arsenal have agreed anything yet. And they haven't announced those, they're just rumours at the moment. But I mean, it's a fairly safe bet they're going to want to keep Mariona Caldente if they can. Riviere brought down there by Alessia Russo, who's frustrated by the referee's decision to penalise her. But I think the referee with very little choice there, as Russo chased her down. And yeah, did catch the Canadian fullback. Free kick here for United then, deep in their own third. Tallis Joyce goes long, looking for a flick on in there. Ziggiotti wins the first contact, trying to nod it on. And now they're going forward. Turland heading it on, cleared away well though by Emily Fox. And now flicked on well by Rousseau. And here come Arsenal. Marnham in this central area, lays it off to Rousseau, pokes it through the lines. No one making the run though, and Anna Sandberg able to collect the ball. Out now to the left-hand side. Rolfo's touch though, evading her. Now will be an Arsenal throw-in. Here's Fox. Into the feet of Rousseau. Tries to get the flick on now. Heads it on to Marnham. One back well in there. A little bit messy between Letitia. Marnham takes aim. And that's blocked again by Maya Letitia. And now Sandberg clearing her lines well. But the last few minutes, we're just starting to see that tide turn. Early part of this game, it was United who looked the stronger side. Last couple minutes, we've just seen Arsenal start to create with a little bit more consistency. Here's Catley. Arsenal look to recycle and keep the pressure on. Now McCabe. She shifts it back to Steph Catley. And now out wide into Olivia Smith, who wants to dart inside, wants to be dangerous. Here's Kim Little. And back now into Leah Williamson. Trying to lift it in behind, headed down by Riviere. And here's Smith inside to Caldente, wriggling some room for the shot, takes aim, and that uncharacteristically wayward from Mariona Caldente. Gilt-edged opportunity, really. Exactly the sort of area you would want Mariona Caldente to be in possession. But can't quite make it happen on that occasion. Had the room to work with. Just seemed to be off balance there. And the shot, seeing the effects of that as it goes flying wide. Hermie says, hope to see Smila Holmberg today. I think if Arsenal are in a comfortable position, they'll bring her on. I'm not sure if they will be in that comfortable position though. Here's Marnham out to the right-hand side, looking to find Beth Mead, who will get there. Wants to take on Sandberg now. Mead chops inside, ball across the box, headed away by Janssen. And then Rolfo looping it away. Here's Catley. And now to Olivia Smith. Wants to take on Riviere, does well. Ball across the box, blocked well by Letitia, but it's been all Arsenal. This passage of play. United unable really to get out of their own third, and Arsenal putting the pressure on. They've got a corner now to try and consolidate that pressure. And it will be Beth Mead over this set piece. Who can she pick out in the penalty area? Can Arsenal find their opener? We know United haven't been perfect at defending set pieces this season. Can Arsenal exploit that weakness? Mead. Ball into the right sort of area, met though by United head. Caldente aims to keep it alive. Williamson lays it to Mead, and there's a head injury in there. And that will bring a pause to the action. And I believe that is Steph Catley down. He is indeed. Just seemed to get caught there in the melee in the penalty area. I'm watching the replay. We'll have a look. Yeah, goes for the header. Hits the head of Janssen, I think there, or almost the cheek of Janssen. And does seem to be down in some discomfort. Like says, is Mead easily beating Sandberg? One occasion there she beat her quite well, yeah. I think that'll be a fascinating battle. I think Sandberg had a really good season. And I think Beth Mead's often struggled to beat a player. A player who used to be so reliant on her ability to just glide past players, burst past them with her pace, but obviously since that injury a few years ago has struggled to have that sort of explosiveness that you would want from her. But has done well so far to beat Anna Sandberg. Maureen says Arsenal will score first. Fair enough. I can see that as well with the way Arsenal have started this game. No, says, I don't know if it's going to be a Coffee Hasegawa midfield. To be fair, I think Yui's off for the Asian Cup soon. Well, the Asian Cup's not till March. Presumably, clubs may take players in the last sort of 2 weeks of February, which will be interesting to see how that impacts certain clubs. I think for most games, City will use a Coffee Hasegawa pivot. And then they'll rotate Lohman and Hasegawa in that midfield role, and then Blinker-Brown and Coffee in that other midfield role. But I mean, it covers City's midfield, really, the signing of Sam Coffey for that Asian Cup period. A player Arsenal we know were very interested in. Weren't able, though, to make a move for, and City have swooped in and signed Sam Coffey. Now Arsenal left looking at Georgia Stanway on a free in the summer. Here's Mead, wants to take on Sandberg again. Sandberg stands her up well and deals with the threat. And that'll be a throw-in for Arsenal, which Fox will go over and take. 20 minutes played here then. Not much in the way of clear-cut opportunities created from these two sides, but we have seen both sides threaten. Arsenal looking by far the more dangerous side so far, especially in more recent opportunities, but United probably the best chance of the game with that early opportunity for Fridley and Rolfo. Here's Fox. Can she pick someone out with the throw? Does find Russo, who holds it up well, wants to turn Miyazawa. Flashed across the box now. Bounce around, chance for Smith. Smothered by Fallon Tullis-Joyce. And that will be, I think, a United free kick as well, as Smith has fouled Tullis-Joyce. But a messy moment there. Miyazawa failed to deal with Russo, let her turn too easily. It rebounded around the penalty area. I think Smith was in an offside position as she wasn't ruled on by Miyazawa. Would have been a fair goal, just couldn't quite poke it home. Really good reaction there from Tullis-Joyce. Jumped onto Smith quickly, smothered it well. And the chance alleviated. Here come Manchester United. Mallard robbed of possession by Mariona Caldente. Now says, I can't believe we're actually signing Coffey. Seemed a tap-in signing for Arsenal. She's a profile they need. Very vocally supports club and has clearly wanted to go to the WSL for a while. Yeah, I agree. I think the only justification for it is that either they didn't want to stump up. It's a fee around 850,000, I want to say. I think I saw reported this morning. It's a fee of around 850,000. So either Arsenal didn't want to pay that when they think that they can get by with Stanway for free, or it's not a profile that Slegers is particularly interested in. But I think they need a midfielder who can dictate the tempo. So I have to say I'm very surprised Arsenal didn't go in for Coffey. Here's Caldente. Now it's the left-hand side. Marnham. There's also every opportunity they did go in for Coffey and they were rejected. I think City's a more attractive proposal right now. Here's Smith. Wants to cut inside. Tries to cross it into the area. Blocked well by Riviere. Mallard down now to Jade Riviere, who's under pressure from Smith and does squeeze a pass out to the right-hand side. Mallard wants to take on McKay, but a touch a little loose there, and it's back in Arsenal's possession. Marnham. Caldente. Back now into Catley. Caldente. Ball out to the right-hand side. Fox wants to take on Sandberg. Sandberg does well, gets a foot in and knocks it out of play. I think we're seeing the same passage we always see from Arsenal. They have had a lot of the ball. They've had a lot of the territory. But the chances haven't really been there. There's been a few half chances, a few moments where they've almost capitalised on United being sloppy. But their problem is still with chance creation, Arsenal. You know, against weaker defences where the gaps open up, they're really good at exploiting it because they've got good players. But they're still too static in the final third. I just don't think there's enough rotations, enough flexibility in the Arsenal in possession structure. Here is McCabe. Who can she pick out in the area? It's a low delivery. They try and just bundle it in. Cleared away by Janssen. Back to McCabe. Ball into the box. Headed away well. Will drop now for Smith on the edge. Tries to get it under our grasp, but can't. It's hard to say whether that is a poor corner from McCabe or whether that was something that was planned. Either way, it didn't go how Arsenal wanted it to. Here is Fox. Back now to Caldente. A makeshift Arsenal backline here as they keep the ball alive. Mead. Back out wide now into Olivia Smith, who wants to take on Melvine Mallard. Now looks to go down the line. Brilliant from Smith, bursting into the box. Cuts it across, and Riviere on hand to block that ball across the face of goal. Important defending there from Manchester United. Alex says, Jack, do you think Mead should start over Chloe Kelly? Yeah, I do. I think Kelly's a brilliant impact player. I've always said this. I think Kelly's a really good impact player. I think her ability to come off the bench and put crosses into the box and just cause a little bit of chaos is really good. Here is Beth Mead. Out wide now to Caldente. Shifts it to McCabe in the penalty area. Cuts it back to Little. And it's off the side netting. Best chance of the game so far. Best move from Arsenal, really. Lovely combination after that corner. And Kim Little, not far away there from giving Arsenal the lead. And it comes from a bit of miscommunication in the United backline. Both Janssen and Riviere rush out to the same player. It leaves Little exposed. It leaves Little open. United's defence is exposed. And Kim Little really, I think she's got to do better. I think she has to hit the target in that position. Yes, there's bodies in front of her, but you've got to test Valentulla's choice. And Arsenal win the ball back quickly from United playing out. This has been a real struggle for Manchester United. Haven't had a shot since the 15th minute. Have only had 19% of the ball since the 10th minute. That's really poor for Manchester United. Nice says, I'll be honest about Kelly. The fact that Arsenal made our deal permanent was a sign that they were comfortable where they were when they shouldn't have been. Yeah, I think that was a signing made with the heart rather than the head. And I think that's a problem too often at Arsenal, is that recruitment is done. Yeah, there's definitely something to be said about the sort of unity and togetherness of a group and how important that is. But when a player is not the best tactical fit, it sort of compromises tactically. It has to be, discussed why they made that decision. But I think Kelly is a really good impact player. I think she's a fantastic crosser of football, but I don't think she's a brilliant creator. And in the early stages of a game, it's difficult to impact the game while being that sort of high volume crosser, but not really being able to offer a whole lot else. I think that is a real problem. At City, it was fine because you cross the ball in and Khadija Shaw's there. And, 90% of the time that's a goal. But she just doesn't fit this Arsenal team. She's a really good impact sub. But, yeah, I just don't think she fits what they need. Here is Williamson. Inside now to Mead. Plays it out to the right side, headed away well by Riviere. Now Smith. Arsenal still probing the side with the upper hand at the moment. McCabe inside to Marnham, who now looks to switch the play, and that's a lovely ball across, floated into Emily Fox. Mead back to Leo Williamson. Will look to lift it in behind. Marnham now holding it in the penalty area. Mead, sorry. For Janssen, able just to use her body, use her physicality and win back the ball. But yeah, it's been an interesting game so far. Very cagey affair. United are doing what they've done in most of the games against top sides, where they are sitting very deep. They're happy to just absorb pressure for now and not concede a goal, and then maybe look to score later in the game. I think, who's a point benefit more? Very difficult to say. Obviously, Arsenal, in terms of the fact they still have league position over United, are probably the obvious benefactors of a point today. But I think United with fixtures are probably in the better position. I think the fact that, yes, if Arsenal draw today, yes, they get that sort of immediate league position over United. But Arsenal's next few games, obviously the FA Cup next weekend has no impact on the league. They've then got Chelsea. They're then playing in the FIFA Champions Cup. I've also got a Carabao Cup tie in there as well against United. And they play... So the FIFA Champions Cup means their Leicester game will either move midweek or later in the season, and then they play Man City. That is a very difficult run for Arsenal. It's either going to be a lot of congestion or just difficult games. I mean, most of them are very difficult games, regardless of how congested it is. And then they go straight into their sort of Champions League games as well. So congestion and difficulty of fixtures can be so huge for Arsenal in the next few weeks. So I think a draw today for United is almost beneficial because they'll win a lot of fixtures in the next few weeks. They've got some quite kind games, whereas Arsenal have got some really tough matches. And obviously the FIFA Champions Cup adding more issues to that schedule because that's 2 extra games. I think, yeah, a draw would benefit United more because they'll get that league position in the next few weeks. Tigiotti robbed the possession there by Caldente. Here's Little. But says draw's not good enough for both. Spurs right there. Of course, yeah. I should say the biggest beneficiaries of a draw here are Tottenham because they play Leicester this week, Liverpool next week. They're in a strong position, Tottenham, to capitalise if these two slip up. Olivia Smith down here holding her shoulder. I think a contact injury there after a challenge from Jade Riviere. It wasn't a foul, it was a brilliant challenge. It's just the way that she's fallen afterwards hasn't gone too kindly after the challenge from her compatriot, but it does seem to be okay to continue. Just a little discomfort in that shoulder. And now Tullis Joyce is down. And so we will see a momentary pause. Now, obviously, Tullis Joyce has struggled with injuries so far this season. I believe that was to her eye, though. Or some sort of face fracture or something like that, wasn't it? Or eye fracture? I can't remember. I don't think you can fracture your eye, but it's some sort of eye injury or face injury. Now, though, down holding her ankle. So this looks more of a tactical break. Big important game for Mark Skinner as well, not just in the context of this season, it's also his 100th game. WSL game, I should say. 100th WSL game managing Manchester United. That puts him 6th on the all-time list. And if he sees out this season and is still in charge next season, he'll likely go to 3rd on the all-time list. I think there's some valid criticism sometimes of Mark Skinner. I think he's one of the most underrated managers, though, in the WSL. I think the job he's done with United over the last few years to put them in the position they're in has been really strong. And now they're finally getting, it looks like they're finally getting, the investment they deserve. But yeah, what minute will we see Leah Schuler? That'll be the big question. Goalkeeper timeout, though, is over. I wish we would end this foolishness of injuries being timeouts. I think they've got to bring in some. They've either got to say they don't want this to happen, in which case players can't go over to the benches during an injury, or they say we're going to have a proper timeout system. And so, because I think the idea of timeouts are really good. There are moments in the game where actually the manager's being able to talk to the players, having a tactical moment is really important. I think it can be a good thing for the sport. But it should be something that's sort of written into the rules where maybe both managers have a timeout they can use. Lovely tribute, by the way, here from the Arsenal fans. An applause and an ovation on the 32nd minute. A sign as well, showing support for Kyra Cooney-Cross during what is a very difficult time for the player and her family. Mallard down the line into Ziggiotti. Not had a play there. And that came off Mariona Caldente, so that'll be a Manchester United throw-in. Here's Riviere. F says Skinner is easy to criticise, but their problems have always been bigger than him. Yeah, well, that's what I think. Even when you look at this season, I think yes, United have had issues, but I think when you look at where that's all stemmed from, it's tended to be a lack of investment because all the issues they've had in terms of individuals were making mistakes and they've not had the players they've wanted, and their defence looks really tired and they can't play this very intense out-of-possession football they like to play. They all seem to stem from the same problem, which is that they don't have enough players because there's not that investment and their squad depth hasn't been good enough. When you look at the transfer they've made already this January window, Rachel Williams leaving for Leah Schuler is a ridiculous trade. Kira Barry leaving, Ellen Vangerheim joining. Obviously, I know Barry was out on loan for the first half of the season, but I still think that's a huge upgrade. They've got Hannah Lundqvist coming in, Blundell leaving. That's a big upgrade. And so in terms of depth, United are really strengthening their squad. Rolfo, ball in, hits Mallard in the area. Wasn't anticipating that to come across. Catley should have dealt with that. And a foul there from Rolfo, too aggressive in how she shielded the ball from Mead. Fox down as well in this moment. It will be an Arsenal free kick. But yeah, it's this game's gone how we would have expected it, really. United being the side who are happy to sort of concede a lot of possession, rely on being really strong defensively. And I think later in this game, the question will be, when do they go for it? You know, when do they let these players off the leash? That will be the question now for me. But yeah. Nice, season 1 without Taylor, and we already look better than we've looked for years. Again, though, that comes with... I think Taylor's a really good coach. I think his problem at City last season was injuries, and was his problem throughout his time, really, at City. Most notably, the one season where they did compete for the league, they didn't have Champions League football. And so injuries and fatigue and not being able to rotate the squad wasn't so much of an issue. Last season, we saw it all fall apart at City, but I think a lot of that comes down to the number of injuries we saw in that squad. And ultimately, the reason they didn't win the title was an injury to Khadija Shaw. And yeah, I think there were valid criticisms. There are definitely valid criticisms of Taylor now at Liverpool. But I think to say that it was totally his fault last season at City is a little bit egregious. Injury here to Fox, and the physio is just checking her over. Of course, Smila Holmberg could be in line to make her debut here. She has been sent to warm up, although Fox, it looks like, is keen to continue. And she is back to her feet. Physio still just getting her to test it out. And yeah, I think she will re-enter the fray. We'll obviously have to go off for a moment, though, as is customary with injuries. And Arsenal could get us back underway. Williamson. Looking for that long ball forward, flicked on well by Alessia Russo. Now Letitia. Back to Sandberg. Tries to go down the line. It's one back well in there by Fridolina Rolfo. And poked away well by Marnham. That'll be a United throw-in. Maureen asking about Jenna Nicewonger. Nicewonger this morning has been unveiled at Aston Villa. A loan move to Aston Villa. It's a bit of an interesting one. I think it's a destination where... I think it's a weird one for all parties, really. Because Arsenal ultimately are hoping to recoup the 200,000 I think they paid for her. Might be lower than that, actually. I think it was either 180 or 80,000. I can't remember which one of those it is, though. But I think with Nicewonger, they're hoping to recoup that money. I don't know if Villa are going to pay that for her when they've already got Paula Thomas, and presumably now those two will rotate, and they've got Maltby coming through. So it's going to be interesting. Obviously, Nicewonger's hoping for minutes. I think she will get them. Whether or not they come at left back or midfield, we'll have to see. It'll be interesting to see how she does there. I think it's a good side for her to move to. If she is playing that left wing back role, that's sort of the best of both worlds for Nicewonger because it gives her that attacking licence. So yeah, I think it's a good move for Nicewonger. It's just an interesting one, I think, for both Arsenal and Aston Villa. Because for Villa, it sort of directly blocks Maltby's development. So hopefully she gets her loan move now. And for Arsenal, it gives them a very little chance of recouping the money. I guess the idea is that if she does really well, Villa will probably pay the 180,000. If she does decently and Villa don't want to keep her, it's probably going to raise her value from what it is right now. So I understand it. I just think, yeah, I think it's a shame it didn't work out for her at Arsenal. Is there any route for her back? I don't think it's out of the question, but I see it being very difficult given how Slagers has treated her in her 12 months at the club. So we'll see. Player knocked down the line there from Mead. Williamson making the overlapping run, clears it into Miyazawa, back into Williamson. That's out for United throw. And yeah, Cat Lanterns going out on loan means that she is at Aston Villa for 6 months. She'll be back at Arsenal in the summer. It's widely expected when she returns, though, she'll be moved on, but we'll have to see. So United just making their way up this left-hand side now. Sandberg headed on by Turland, headed inside, picked off by Marnham. A little bit messy there, but Marnham does squeeze it back to Williamson. So 6 minutes left in this first half, plus what we'd expect to be a fairly healthy amount of stoppage time. It's not been a vintage WSL fixture so far, but it's been a game where both sides are starting to grow into it as this half goes on. Caldente now out wide into Marnham. They're looking to make something happen here. Arsenal ball in to the area, headed on by Russo. Fox out the back post, puts it in the box. Mead unable to get there. Riviere heads away. Russo on the edge, blocked by Ziggiotti. And now Mallard picks up the ball. United looking to break away. Good hold up from Turland in there, who now looks to turn and find a teammate. Finds Ziggiotti well. She tries to burst away, but can't, and now it's Kim Little, does really well in the central area. Her pass inside, though, picked off by Miyazawa in a frantic moment, and did well by a good interception. And United back in possession. Letitia to Mallard, wants to turn out now and find a teammate. Back to Letitia. And Janssen goes to Sandberg. Here's Park. Into the feet of Turland, and now Sandberg. As I said, a boring game, everything is very safe. Yeah, I think this is what we expect, though. You know, I know the WSL is sort of famed for these games being great fixtures. At the end of last season, we saw that. The difference is the game at the Emirates at the end of last season had the advantage of the fact that both sides had nothing to lose. Neither of them could drop, and the winner would be in a great position to get Champions League football. Obviously, they both ended up with Champions League football in the end. But the difference in this game right now is that neither side can afford to lose. And so what we're seeing is, rather than two sides who want to win the game, it's two sides who don't want to lose the game. And so until a goal happens, this game won't open up. Here's Fox trying to carry it forward. Sandberg over-aggressive in her attempts to halt her progress. And that's an Arsenal free kick. That's saying Leah Schuler as a sub will be the decider. Very much could be. You know, I think when we've spoken for ages in the past about United's lack of depth, when you look at their bench today, I'd argue they've probably got the better options. Possibly not, especially with injuries to Bita and Toon and the like. But I think Schuler's a great option off the bench. Of course, Arsenal have got Sina Blackstenius, and she can change the game in ways that, you know, I don't know if United have Schuler changes the game to an extent, but the profile isn't ridiculously different. Whereas going from Russo to Blackstenius, it completely shifts how Arsenal are looking to play. So if they want to completely shift the dynamic of their attack, they can. I think Schuler does give United more threat in behind, perhaps, than Turland does at the moment. So it'll be interesting to see what they choose to do. Williamson down the line. Arsenal happy to hold on to the ball here. Caldente. Now to Little, carries it forward, pokes it through the lines. Here come Arsenal. Catley. Finding herself slightly higher than she's used to. Caldente back to Catley. Here come Arsenal. Ball in, and Letitia doesn't do well with that clearance. It's going to drop in there, but it's Miyazawa who does well. One back high by Arsenal. Marnham. Now Little. Spreads it wide. Here is Catley supporting the attack. Back now into Mariona Caldente. Smith. Caldente, now Smith, into Russo now, who drops to receive, shifts it out to the right-hand side, Mead in a pocket of space, cuts it back for Marnham, and she just leans back there. That's the most Frida Marnham shot I've ever seen. Good position, just leans back, catches the ball, fairly wrong, just gets under that too much there. What she's looking to do is just loop it into the far corner. But she leans back too much and ends up looping it over the bar. Right idea, just doesn't quite get the execution there. but a good chance for Arsenal. Not far away on that occasion. Forwards now looking for United, looking for Turland. Header one in there by Williamson. Well, a Raider asking, is Toon injured? Yes, Toon has picked up, I want to say, a hamstring injury. Only a slight injury though. It's 4 weeks that she's expected to be out. So I reckon she'll be back around the Champions League knockout playoff round, when United have that double header against Atletico Madrid to contest. As for Arsenal's injuries, well, they're almost back to a full squad now. I think Kelly, maybe their only major injury. I'm trying to think now. Kelly's out for the next, or is Kelly on the bench now? No, she's been out for a while. Here is Fox. With the technical problems we've had, I haven't been able to check the bench in the first half. Ball forward now. Williamson looking for Russo, who just tries there to use her body to get the advantage over Janssen. Ended up losing out. Tallis Joyce. Now Riviere. Great pressing there. Defending from the front there, Olivia Smith. Janssen just having to put a boot back on. Saying Giacomo tripping, or has Frida dropped quality? I think Frida Marlin has always been a very inconsistent player. I think she does a few things very well. I think there are a lot of aspects of her game though that I think it's less that she's dropped off and more that the system Arsenal use now has exposed those weaknesses a little bit more. I think she's always been a very sort of rough around the edges player. There's elements of her profile I really like. There's other bits that I'm not too sure on. And I think this system, because passing isn't one of her greatest strengths, and I think this system where she's good in transition, where there's a little bit more space, but in this Arsenal system where they're very slow and you've got to be good at operating in tight spaces and in the pocket to be out, and your movement has to be elite, I think that's really where Marnham's exposed. So, yeah, this is the game in the WSL with the most touch in the opposition box in the first half. Arsenal have had 33. No side has managed more this season. That's absolutely absurd. I guess the major reason for that being Arsenal haven't really been productive enough. Arsenal are getting into the penalty area and doing very little in those sorts of areas. Warren says Blackstone is a lot better than Marnham. Very different players. Blackstone gives Arsenal a different dimension, which they don't really have for any other player. And as much as I think Russo is best as a striker, I don't hate the idea of her playing in the 10. She's done well in that role at times this season. But yeah, 6 minutes of additional time, by the way, in this first half. I forgot to add that. We're already 2 minutes into that. Still rusty. First game back from the winter break. Hasn't helped that the Wi-Fi is not happy today. Caldente. Fox. Looking to progress the ball. Wants to go in behind. One back well by Dominique Janssen. Goes back down the line to Sandberg, who can't quite hold on to the ball. Fox, that's really good in there from Yulia Ziggiotti. Held up well by Turland. Turned over, though, by Caldente, and here come Arsenal. Passes it across into Marnham. One back well in there by Letitia, who stepped up to make the challenge. Mallard, Miyazawa, Mallard again, Ziggiotti, inside to Miyazawa. Mallard now punting it out towards the right-hand side, headed away by McCabe, drops for Russo. He holds on to the ball well. Here is Caldente driving it forwards. Marnham now shifting it wide. Here come Arsenal. And it's Smith on the ball. Wants to take on Riviere. Back to Marnham. And that's blocked well by Letitia. Catley. Keeping this move alive. Williamson. Catley now flicked on by Smith, who's brought down by Riviere in there, and that's a good position for the free kick. Riviere protests her innocence, but is booked there for that challenge. Yeah, just late. I don't think she can have too many arguments there. Just goes in late on Smith. It's a good area for the free kick, as Arsenal now can put Tullis Joyce under pressure from this position. I'm interested who takes this. I think it is McCabe over it. And Beth Mead. It's fascinating that McCabe and Mead are the preferred options when they've got Mariana Caldente and Olivia Smith, but there we go. McCabe takes the bigger run up. You'd expect her to be the player that will hit it. Delivers the ball in towards the back post. Chance now for Catley. Doesn't quite do anything with that. Here's Fox. McCabe. Great ball swung in there. Catley touched it down. Here's Russo. Makes a space for the shot. And that deflects up nicely into the gloves of Tullis Joyce. That's a great delivery there, though, from Katie McCabe. Really good stop from Tullis Joyce. Judged the flight of that ball well. Miyazawa plays it inside. Rolfo wants to lift it in behind, and Turland's frustrated there. Because if she'd just taken a little bit more risk and just played it in behind, that could have been dangerous. Amala Teesside, welcome to the stream. So switch from other channels. Thanks to the commentary on women's football and not deviating. Appreciate it. I hope you're enjoying the stream. I will say I do deviate when it is appropriate, but yeah, not constantly. Here is Williamson. Picked off brilliantly there by Melvin Mallard, and here come Manchester United looking to switch out to the right-hand side. Rolfo now. Across into Dominique Janssen, and that is the half-time whistle. Arsenal 0, Manchester United 0 at half-time here at the Emirates. It's been a cagey affair so far. United started fastest, but it was Arsenal that dictated the tempo for most of that first 45. And at the break, neither side able to break the deadlock. It's Arsenal 0, Manchester United 0. For all of Arsenal's dominance in terms of possession, in terms of being able to break into the United box a lot, it's the most touches in the opposition box for a first half we've seen in any UWCL game this season. They've had just 2 shots on target. And this is the problem for Arsenal, and it has been the problem all season, is that I think, yes, they're really good at holding onto the ball, but they're not good enough at breaking teams down, especially United today. Look and operate in a low block. Arsenal are very good at dictating the tempo, but they haven't created anything of real quality yet. They've had a couple decent chances, 2 big chances created, both missed. But for all the dominance they've had, they've not made it count, and they've not found the back of the net, and that's the most important thing. Half-time wipes the slate clean, really, and I think United have set up to not concede in the first 45. The question will be now, when do they let their forward players off the leash? When do they go for the game, if at all? Now, are they happy just to consolidate a point here? That'll be the question, but I think Arsenal aren't doing enough at the moment to make it difficult for United. They're not pulling United's defence out of shape. A lot of the big chances for Arsenal have come due to United mistakes, and they're not necessarily mistakes that have been forced by Arsenal. So that's been the biggest problem for me so far, is Arsenal's inability to create high quality chances. I think this game will change if they can actually, if they have the ball in their own third, because they can invite United onto them and then attack into the space behind. The problem is that United are very happy to sit in their own half and just sit narrow, very compact, and not leave space for Arsenal to use. So Arsenal have got to find a way of creating space. They've got to find a way of drawing United out. Because if they let them sit in their own penalty area, yeah, they can have lots of touches in the box. But are they actually going to score any goals? That's the big question. 9 shots so far from Arsenal, 0.78 XG created. For the possession they've had, and especially the territory they've had, in terms of the fact that they've been able to be in the United half for most of this half. In fact, passes in the opposition half will show this. 147 in the opposition half, more than they've had in their own half, only 114. So they've had all of their possession really, or the majority of their possession has been in the United half. 38 touches in the opposition box. All of that for just 2 shots on target. And they've not even created over 1 XG yet. It's not been a bad first half from Arsenal, but it just shows the same issues where they are not productive enough in the final third. And actually United side who, yes, they've had a winter break, but there were defensive frailties towards the end of the year. And I just don't think Arsenal have done enough to exploit that or make it difficult really for Manchester United. And they've got to do that better. They've got to, in the second half, that's got to be the key thing. If this pattern continues of United happy to sit a little bit deeper, we need to see an Arsenal side who are more urgent in the final third and who are better at moving the ball. If they move the ball quickly, that's another way they can create space. That's what Arsenal are trying to do now is create space. The problem is they move the ball too slowly and they want to camp in the United half. So it's just been difficult. But it'll be interesting to see what happens in the second half. I think the most interesting thing will be Skinner's response now, or at least what their plan is, because they set out from minute 1. And I think the idea would have been the same as it was in the reverse fixture, where they were very happy to concede the possession and sit deep and just not concede in the first half. What we saw in the second half was very similar, but they were a little bit more aggressive. And in the final few moments, we did see them start to come forwards. The question will be whether they mirror that today, United, if they look to go down the same path and are very happy to get a point, or whether they actually go for this game at all. I think United's games against the big sides have all followed the same blueprint. The only reason the Chelsea game was any different was because they conceded early. They then had to go for the game. And then once they scored, they then went back to doing what they were before of sitting deep. And actually they rode their luck a lot in that game, Manchester United. So I think they've got to be mindful of that. I think they've got to look at the games against United, Arsenal and City from the first half of this season, look at where it went wrong in certain moments, and alter their game plan appropriately for the game they've got today. Now, City obviously was a little bit different. That game they were absolutely torn apart. But again, they had a lot of players weren't first choice. Murton Patel had a huge impact on that game. Lea Galton started, I believe. When they look back at when they played Chelsea and Arsenal earlier in this season, the big problem was they never really went for the game. They did have to get quite fortunate in moments. But yeah, the biggest chance of the game did come for United in those early stages. That opportunity for Fridley and Arolfo. And this is the issue. I think it's interesting to play the way they have against Arsenal, because I think Arsenal are quite open defensively at times. And this exposed that, because Rolfo there can burst in front of Williamson and win the header quite comfortably. And actually, if it wasn't a fantastic stop from Aneka Borba, that would have been 1-0. And even then, it was a great stop, because you got a little bit fortunate in the way that it bounced off the crossbar. Arsenal's biggest chance was that opportunity for Kim Little in that first half. It was a recycled corner, a lovely combination between Mead, Calente and McCabe. Cut back for Kim Little. Should have done a lot better with that opportunity. The other best chance was Frida Marnham, who hooked one over the bar. And Steph Catley at the back post, who just doesn't seem to make any contact with this. She kicks it, but it doesn't go anywhere at the back post. It's a great ball from McCabe. But I think it's been interesting. Arsenal, it's the same problems that have impacted Arsenal throughout the first half of the season. And I think what's really interesting is that if we can spot them, so can us. So can Arsenal's management. So can the analysts that are working at Arsenal. they can all see the same problem. So what the question for me is, what are they doing to change that? Is it just that they think, well, the way we're playing at the moment is good enough to beat 75% of the teams in the WSL, so we'll play this way. We'll probably get third or at least fourth, which they seem to be content with at the moment, and then rebuild in the summer. That seems to be, at least from my perspective, the way they're going about this. It'll be interesting to see if they shift anything in the second half, whether they do become a little bit more experimentative. I don't think they will. I think everything we've seen from Arsenal this season has been down this one road. This is our tactical direction. This is where we're going in the future. There's clearly a lot of faith in Slagers that she'll pull that off eventually. But I mean, it's a risk now. Arsenal they've signed Slagers to a 3-year deal. I think the football this season hasn't been perfect. I can see where they're going long term. But there's a lot of signs in this current squad that there's a lot of work to do to get them to that position. And I still don't think the setup's perfect either. So it's a lot of questions for me over the next few years for Arsenal. I think Champions League football is still really important, though. I think their ability to recruit players in summer will be severely impacted by not having or having Champions League football. We saw that with United a few years ago. We've seen it with City. Every side that doesn't get that Champions League football does put them in a really difficult spot in terms of recruitment, because there are then much more attractive proposals for a lot of players. I think for Arsenal as well, obviously, they've got a huge fan base. There is this huge ambition that they want to be in the Champions League. I think in terms of their recruitment, they're probably the side who'd be least impacted by not having Champions League next season, because United have gone through the phase that Arsenal are going through now. United have gone through, and those were the days of the lack of investment and very much building for the future. And they lost Russo. Sorry, they've lost a lot of key players over the last few years. Lucia Garcia after the FA Cup win, and now they're in the position though where they've suffered a bit of hurt. Yes, they had a FA Cup title in there. Yes, they've qualified for the Champions League, but they've suffered that hurt, and they're now building up to what is looking like a really strong United side, and they're now ready to compete in the here and now, and they're recruiting to be able to compete for the WSL next season. Arsenal are at the start of that journey, but I think the problem is while that may be the goal, obviously, is that they're now at the start of their journey with Slagers. The problem is you've got a fan base who want results right now, and so they've got to try and balance that, and they've got a lot of players in the squad who are at sort of a peak or over the hill age. I think it's going to be a big rebuild in the summer for Arsenal. I think it's going to be really interesting to see what they do for the next 6 months. I think it's going to be really interesting to see what they do in the second half. Will we see them be a little bit more adventurous? Will they continue to play the way they have in the first half? That's a wait and see. Second half should be getting underway in the next few minutes. CW says, is Tottenham's rush of January signings then believing they can finish third? A bit of a mixture of them believing they can finish third, but also them building for the future. Notably, with all of Tottenham's signings, you'd say they're all players who probably aren't quite ready to compete at the top level, with the exception of Signe Gaupset, I'd say, and arguably Hermano, but that is a loan. So again, it's a mixture, because they've got those two who are very much could be playing for any of the top 4 sides. And then they've signed players like Hannah Vick, who I think is really talented, very talented young player. Does she come in and make them immediately better? Slightly, but she's not a top right back yet. I think she will be eventually. But again, this is Tottenham building for the future. Same with Matilda Nilden, player who is very inexperienced, very few minutes of senior football under her belt. Obviously, 1 season at BK Häcken. Still very young, though. One definitely for the future. And they've got Yuli Blacksad, a player who I think makes them immediately better, gives them competition in multiple different positions, cover multiple different positions as well. So it's a mixture for Tottenham. I think that Tottenham have absolutely nailed the recruitment, I have to say, in this January transfer window. I think the way that they have, and in the summer as well, bringing in talented young footballers at a low cost, because a lot of them play in the Damallsvenskan, with the exception of Hermano, obviously, who's a loan move, and Gaupset is coming from the top Serien. They're signing players to be competitive in the next few years. And I think the core of their team is really good now in terms of when you look at the future. They've got Olivia Holt, who's 25, I want to say. Yuli Blackstad, 24. Toko Koga, 19. Lisa Kopp, still decently young for a goalkeeper, I want to say around 25. They've got players like Katinka Tamberg, who's in her early 20s. Jess Naz is someone they still view as someone who can be really important. Matilda Wimberg. The only position really where Tottenham need that refresh still is centre-back and central midfield, because Spence and someone have been excellent for them this season. Hunt and Koga are even better for them this season. But their backups in those roles are very weak. So that's where Tottenham still need to improve. But they're building something, and that is, I think that's clear. I think Martin Ho is a top, or at least a top prospect of a manager. I think eventually he will be a manager who could win the WSL. Whether that's at Tottenham or elsewhere remains to be seen. But I think the way that they've gone about their business, they've got a clear recruitment strategy. They've got a clear goal in mind. They are competing both in the short and long term in terms of their business. I think they've nailed it so far. I think United have done very well on recruitment as well. I think United are quite clear that they need signings here and now. And I think that's absolutely the right move. I think City as well. Sam Coffey's a great addition. If I was City, I'd want one more centre-back or right-back, or possibly both. Because I think, obviously they've got Laura Weinreuter. Is she a WSL backup, WSL winning backup right-back? Probably not. But she can play there if there was an injury to Casper. I think they'd like another centre-back as well. But they've now the recruitment. Arsenal have just been very quiet in this window so far. Yes, they've brought in Holmberg, which is a signing for the future. But I think it's very much showing that Arsenal are looking at the next 3 years rather than 6 months. Whereas obviously all those sides have mentioned, United and City and Chelsea, if they do anything in this January window, they're sides who are competing in the here and now. And I think what Arsenal need to do is put themselves in a position where they can be like Chelsea. If you think about what Chelsea are doing, and actually the way that I think City are going now, is that they've got both. They're able to manage having Chelsea are able to compete in the here and now, but also invest for the future. Whereas I think Arsenal, because it's just been such a period of instability and a squad that is of an age that is here and now, but of a quality that isn't, it's difficult then to balance where they need to go. I think Arsenal are looking at the future, and that is the right thing, but it will come at the detriment of results in the short term. In terms of this game, though, there's not a lot to analyse from that first half. United are setting up really well defensively. The only way Arsenal are going to break that down is if they can make this game a little bit more transitional, but they don't want to do that because they want to be a very possession-dominant side and they want to be able to control the game and they don't want to bring in too much risk. And the only other way they do it is if United decide they want to go for the game, which again is, not something I see happening, because I think United would be happy to take the point, as they've shown with all their games against the top sides in the league. So, yeah. EFSA said Arsenal letting City have a free run at Sam Coffey, knowing they don't have a defensive midfielder and haven't replaced Valti, is crazy work. Yeah, I think it depends on what Arsenal want from their midfield. Obviously, Stanway looks like she's coming now in the summer. They've got Caldente, who for whatever reason they think is a defensive midfielder. And they've got Cooney Cross, who, they'll view as long-term. We're back underway for the second half in this game. That has sprung up quickly. I've watched to move for half-time as well. But it's Arsenal taking on Manchester United. Game still tied at 0-0. What can Arsenal do to turn this on its head? Well, it's United in possession right now. Good challenge from Caldente to knock that out of play. But it did come off Jade Riviere, actually, and that will be a Arsenal throw-in on this near side. So no changes for either side at the break. Here's McCabe. Wants to go down the line. Flicked on well in there. Drops now for Ziggiotti. And Letitia. Back now to Tullis Joyce. Here's Letitia. Chipping it forwards. Flicked on by Ziggiotti. Headed down by Little. Now Smith. Wants to carry it forwards. Tries to poke it through the legs of Ziggiotti. Does catch Ziggiotti actually in the aftermath there. That will be United free kick. Esther said Stanway isn't a DM. She's an 8 and they already have that. They still need a DM. I agree. I totally agree. I think Arsenal do need a defensive midfielder. It's quite clear that either Slagers or Wheatley doesn't think they need that, which I think is an odd decision. And I think this was the wrong decision, but that's the way they're playing it. But yeah, I think they need a defensive midfielder. I stated as much in yesterday's video. If you haven't watched that, make sure to watch it after this stream. I looked at 5 players who would fix Arsenal's midfield. One of them was Sam Coffey. I unfortunately recorded it just before the news that, or the rumour that she's going to Manchester City. But I still think a lot of that video is worth watching. So if you want to go check that out, make sure to do so after this stream. Throw-in now for United on this near side with right back Jade Riviere as they'll look to build up down the line. Now she tries to take a little bit of liberty there with where the ball went out of play. Is forced back by the referee. Riviere now looking to find someone in the area. Headed away and then hooked clear by Mariona Caldente. Here's Alessia Russo. And caught in possession there is Little, but Little does really well to recover it. Caldente under pressure. Out now to Williamson looking to go down the line. And that's out of play, and that will be a United throw-in. Poor pass from Williamson. Hoya Saxa says Hutton is terrific. Great call on her in your video. Thank you. Appreciate that. Here is Freedom Arnhem. Pokes it out towards Alessia Russo. That's quite wide of the goal. Does now combine. Here's Fox. Back towards Beth Mead. Breaking into the box. Blocked well by Miyazawa. Now there's an offside flag up there on Beth Mead, deemed to have gone too early. And was in an offside position. But yeah. Arsenal just, again, that was better from Arsenal. But it required me to be offside. Kelly is in attendance, but based on where she sat with Van Domselaar, I think that she's not in the matchday squad. That's something I meant to check during half-time, but alas. Catley now. Picked off possession in there. Caldente does well to recover. Still under pressure though. Park will put pressure on the ball. Williamson clears it away. Here's Janssen. Back now towards Park. We're seeing United be a little bit more aggressive in their press now. In the first half, their press was a little bit more conservative. They didn't want to be too intense. And it was more about preventing Arsenal from coming forwards than it was turning over the ball. We're seeing them be more aggressive. And that's going to do one of two things. They're either going to start turning the ball over half the pitch more, and they'll be able to create chances like they are here. Mallard back towards Turlands. That's cleared away. Here's Riviere. Or it's going to open up. Or Arsenal will play through them and it will open up space. Either way, it should lead to goals. Here's Riviere. Ball into the box. Looking for the cutback. One back well in there by Rousseau. Here is Miyazawa though. Riviere ball in. Head away well by Fox. Smashed up in the air by Ziggiotti. Good hold up from Rousseau. Mallard with an effort, albeit not one that would trouble the goalkeeper. Wide of the mark. But yeah, so a slight tweak for United. Just in the intensity of the press. Whether that will bear fruit remains to be seen. Williamson goes long. Held up well by Smith, but she is upended by Janssen. Deemed fair, though, by the referee. Here's Park. Pivots nicely. Back now into Hinata Miyazawa. Sandberg. And that's poor there. A miscommunication between herself and Park. And here come Arsenal. Caldente. Forced back to Williamson. Knocks out to the right-hand side. Here's Mead. Wants to bring it forwards here for the Gunners. Not back by Marnham into Mead, and she's dispossessed. Pass inside, picked off with ease by Miyazawa. Here's Mallard, wants to take on McKay, beats her, and that's too easy really. From McKay, ball inside to Turland, who can't quite bring it under her control. Mallard could have just kept carrying that. She had McKay beat and had the space to drive into, but she forced the ball across. And that could have been a big opportunity there, wasted really by Melvin Mallard. Caldente. Lovely roll there off the shoulder of Mallard. Into midfield, shifts it into Williamson now. Looking to find Kim Little, who'll just to get there ahead of Park, but is forced backwards there by United's shape. Here's Mead. And goes back towards the defence, and it will be Williamson who picks up the ball. Borba. Williamson. The difference is now, rather than possessing it in United's half, Arsenal possessing it more in their own half. And that's because of how United are setting up. As I say, the interesting thing will be whether now Arsenal can exploit that or whether United will start to win the ball higher up the pitch. Marnham. Back to Caldente. Arsenal have progressed now into the United third. Catley. Inside into Kim Little. Looks to lift it towards the back post. Fox trying to head it across the box. Really good reaction though from Tallis Joyce, who pounces on that pass. And again, even when Arsenal get into the final third, United are dropping into their deep block, their low block in the penalty area. There's not much space in there, especially for crosses, to pick anyone out. Letitia. This is where I'd get Kelly on for Arsenal, though, because they are just crossing it into the box. And if you're going to do that, bring on Blackstone for a bit of aerial presence and bring on Kelly. Chance now for Arsenal. Here's Marnham in the box. Blocked by Janssen. Calls for an arm there. Albeit not plentiful there from Arsenal. But if they're going to get balls in the box, why not bring on someone who's going to put them in with a bit more quality? But I think Kelly is not on the bench. So that's the problem really for Arsenal today. I'm just going to check the substitutes bench. Yeah, no, Chloe Kelly. Get McCabe in attacking areas then. And here come Arsenal again on the right-hand side. One back in there by Janssen. Smith tries to dispossess her. Janssen gets it clear and she's barrelled over in her own penalty area there. Good pressure though from Arsenal trying to win it back. Did just catch Letitia in her attempts to win the ball back there, Smith. Letitia shrugged her off well though. Janssen. Clipping it forwards, Turland, great control, shifts it to Park. Here come United, really good recovery though. Who else but Emily Fox in that position to win back the ball? So many times this season, they look open, Arsenal, and Fox appears out of nowhere to win it back. Here come United, Park. Plays it forward into Fridlin Arolfo. Wants to take on Williamson now. Williamson stands her up well and it's a strong challenge. And here come Arsenal on the counter charge. Marnham has to go backwards though. Little. Now Williamson. Denise Barry says Marnham off. Oh, sorry, Marnham for God's sake. African Guna says Marnham off. Yeah, it's not been her best game, but she does give you threat in behind. Lloyd says, Blackstone says no aerial presence by the stats. Arsenal have nobody in that area except perhaps Russo. What she does give you, though, is a distraction. Well, one back here, heart of the pitch by United. Here's Park. Can she squeeze the area for the shot? It's blocked well by Williamson. Marnham now goes down under slight challenge there from Rolfo. I think she's done well to buy the foul. What Blackstone does well, though, is she distracts and her movement's really good, especially in the penalty area. She'll make that movement towards the front post and that just draws the space and draws players away from the sort of a cutback opportunity. So I think if they can look to do that, that'll give them threat. Double change coming for United. And it is Simia Wujo and Leia Schuler. absolutely what they need. GT saying Russo also has no aerial presence, in my opinion. She's better at scoring aerial goals than Blackstenius. What they really need is Michelle Adjumang. Obviously, loaned her out to Brighton, then she's picked up an ACL injury. But next season, I think they need to keep Adjumang. Here's Marnham, blocked by Riviere. So I think they can manage all 3 minutes, especially with Russo playing occasionally in the 10. I think Adjumang gives you a completely different profile of striker that they don't really have. But yeah, if all 3 are willing to sort of share the minutes, it works quite nicely. The concern would be, would someone like a Blackstenius want to move away in that case? Possibly. But yeah, Arsenal with a corner now. United waiting to make changes. But Arsenal will take this corner before that happens, I think. We'll just see who United take off. Awujo, you would assume one of the central midfielders. Ball in now from Mead. Bounces around, cleared away well by Park. Or it could be taking Mallard off and putting Park onto the right wing and going back to their more usual setup. That very much could be the situation. And then put Schuler up front and take off Turland, I guess would be what they do here. Here come Arsenal, ball into the area, looking for Marnham, claimed really well by Tallis Joyce. But it's perfect from United. They are limiting Arsenal to just crossing the ball in. And I guess it's the other issue that we haven't really mentioned, but Arsenal's other issue is that when you're not very good at creating chances, when you're a bit static in the final third, you often get limited to just crossing the ball. And Arsenal have 0 presence in the penalty area. So we're just watching them put the ball in the box with very little chance of winning the header. Especially putting it that close to a goalkeeper like Tallis Joyce, you're never going to win it. Phil says get Russo and the 10 and Steiner up front. I think that'll probably be the first change for Arsenal. Bring a bit of verticality into the game. Try and get in behind this United line. They are quite high. And even if you can't find Blackstenius in behind, she's going to draw that United line deeper, which should create space in between the defensive lines then for United. But we'll see. I think United will make changes before Arsenal do, though, unless Arsenal get involved in this United substitution. Here is Fox, wants to beat Sandberg, chops inside. Now Sandberg does really well, uses her body, gets between Fox and the ball. And then Miyazawa sweeps in to clear it away. Fox trying to claim a foul. But nothing giving, and a double change is now coming for Manchester United, just short of the hour mark, and it is going to be number 10 for Manchester United, which I believe is Elizabeth Turland, making way for number 24 for a Manchester United debut. It's Leah Schuler, signed from Bayern Munich for an undisclosed fee. And Turland departs. And it'll be Frilina Rolfo off and Simi Awujo on. So that'll be Mallard to the left-hand side, Park back to right wing, Awujo in the 10, and Leah Schuler leading the line. So we're seeing United going back to a shape that is slightly more familiar for them. And also a setup that looks very transitional. With Mallard on the left, Schuler up front, they're going to try and hurt Arsenal in behind. Now Mead dispossessed well, good interception from Schuler who dropped in, and Mead caught offside there, and that is really poor from Beth Mead. It's one of those, it's just laziness there. She's not thinking about getting back into position. Well, I think that has prompted an Arsenal change, because Caitlin Ford is going to be Arsenal's first sub. I have to say, bit of an odd one. Ford struggled this season. I don't know what she offers. Is this going to be for Mead or is it going to be for Olivia Smith? But I don't know what she gives you in this game that's going to break United down. This one is a lot smarter though. Stina Blackstenius is stripping, so it looks like it'll be a double change for Arsenal as well in a few moments. Here's Schuler knocking it back. looking for Zigiotti, but it'll bounce all the way through to goalkeeper Tullis Joyce. Zigiotti. Now it's with Letitia trying to pivot in there. Back now to Zigiotti. Park clips it forward looking for Schuler. One back well low by Arsenal. And now here is Williamson. Wants to play that long diagonal ball. Smith wins the header. Can't do anything with it though. Letitia heads it clear. Flicked on by Zigiotti. Awujo doesn't react quick enough. And it's back in Arsenal's possession. Catley. Smith. Back to Catley. Caldente. Back into Steph Catley. And now it's with McCabe. Slips it forwards. Blackstenius. Caldente. McCabe. Through the lines into Marnham. Now Catley. Caldente. One back really well in there by Jade Riviere. Wants to poke it forwards. Turned over though by Arsenal. Smith. Caldente. Tries to slot it through the lines there, looking for Catley. One back though by Jade Riviere. And that's cleared away, and that will be an opportunity, I think, for the double change here, and it will be indeed. So Arsenal's first changes of the game, Stina Braxenius and Caitlin Ford. And so that is going to be the end of the afternoon for Olivia Smith and the end of the game for Frida Marnham. I think that makes some sense. I don't think we're so much from Olivia Smith. She's not really been able to get on the ball in this game. And, you know, against a player like Jade Riviere, Riviere's had a number constantly in this match. She's been able to be really physical with her. Made it very difficult for Smith to impact the game meaningfully. Ford tries to come inside. One back in there by Awujo. And it's now Williamson on the ball. Now to the right-hand side. Mead. Lovely give and go on the right-hand side here for Arsenal. Mead into the box. Cleared away well by Janssen. And now Schuler picks up on that loose ball. Here's Park, who manages to skip past McCabe with ease. Lifts it in behind, looking for Schuler. Great recovery there from Williamson. Now Catley under pressure. And Caldente, and they'll look to play out. Every time Park has taken on McCabe in this game, it's been successful. Every time. United have got to use that more. Ford. Tries to play it inside, and Riviere a little late there, and this is going to be a problem. Jade Riviere already on a yellow card. That's a second yellow, and she's dismissed. And that is such a stupid tackle to make. On a yellow card, dives in. Criminal. Absolutely criminal from Riviere. Misses the ball, just misjudges it slightly, but you can't go in like that when you're on a yellow card. Just gets there too late. And the referee with no choice but to dismiss her, and that is really, really stupid. Really stupid from Jade Riviere, a player who's usually so calm and collected. But what is she doing there? No, they're frustrated by that. Manchester United, but they've got zero credit to be frustrated, because that is such a silly tackle. When you're on a yellow card to commit to ground like that, it's always going to be a yellow if you misjudge it, and she gets it horribly wrong. And now it's the 11 of Arsenal against the 10 of Manchester United. And for the moment, Miyazawa's playing right back. Hooked away by Schuler. That's kind of killed the game again, I think. Because United now will sit in and try and take the point. And Arsenal have shown they can't really break United down. If anyone said 0-0 at the top of the show for a prediction, you've nailed it in my opinion. Catley. Tyler's choice has gone down, and I think we all know why. Manchester United are going to use this as an opportunity to restructure, because no Riviere means they'll go 4-4-1. Out of possession. It means they're going to lack width in attack, if they do indeed ever attack it now. That's really silly. Really silly from Jade Riviere. It could mean a very sudden introduction for new signing Hannah Lundqvist. I wouldn't be surprised. Anti saying who got the red. It's Jade Riviere who's been dismissed for an utterly rash decision. Rash challenge. When you're on a yellow card, Ford was going nowhere. I've got zero sympathies. Zero sympathies with that. I don't know why she's gone in that position. So as these keep the tactical breaks are such an easy fix. Football really needs to start focusing on the fans again. I like tactical breaks. I just bring it in a more polished way. I'd make it an actual thing rather than the goalkeeper having to feign an injury. I think after a red card, absolutely a team needs a tactical break. But I'd rather it be some sort of timeout system where you've got a set 60 seconds, and you just go. The manager or the assistant manager goes to the fourth official, goes, "We want a timeout when the ball next goes out," and then when the ball next goes out, communicate to the referee. 60 seconds, timeout, and you get to do 60 seconds tactical talk, whatever. That would work much better for me than, the goalkeeper's suddenly picked up a mysterious injury. Because, that one is the most blatant. Red card just happened, and Taylor's Joyce suddenly feels discomfort in her ankle. Throw in now for Arsenal on the far side. Chris says timeout like in American football is a good idea. Yeah, that's what I think. I think taking a leaf from that, where it works quite nicely. I know it's different because obviously football is more of a continuous sport than American football. Obviously American football's very not continuous. It's very stop-start. So timeouts fit the structure of the game better, but I don't think it's any more of a burden than we see a goalkeeper go down and it's the same time wasted. So I don't think it's that bad. McCabe now down to the left-hand side. Here is Ford. McCabe. Held up now by Russo. Trying to squeeze the area for the shot. Blocked well. Marnham. Little now is going to be forced backwards. Goes to Williamson. Ball into the box now. Looking for an Arsenal option. It's headed away. Drops in there for a wild swing from Braxton. It's a chance now for Russo. Saved well by Talis Joyce on the line, who got down and held it. This is a red card supposed to be a punishment. Why give them a tactical break to deal with it? Well, I think the punishment's having to play with 10 players the rest of the game. I think they're going to be more defensive tactically anyway, so you might as well give them the opportunity to use a timeout or something like that to be able to do it. Awujo tries to hold the ball up in there, one back by Fox. And now Arsenal back in possession. Fox carries the ball forwards and Awujo drags her down in there. I think, unfortunately, I think football's moving towards quarters anyway. Look at the next World Cup in the men's game. They're bringing in mandatory breaks every 25 minutes, something like that, 22 and a half minutes. And I know obviously part of it is due to the fact it's going to be really hot, but it's for every game regardless of heat. So it's something that I think FIFA want. But yeah, Simi Awujo's gone back off. Wow. 11 minutes Awujo was on the pitch. Not even that, I don't think. Possibly a little bit more, actually. 12 minutes. Simi Awujo makes way. Team player absolutely came on to be a sort of attacking sub. I understand they don't want to take off Miyazawa and Zigiotti there, but it's hard. That's horrible for Awujo, but I understand the decision. Hannah Lundqvist on for her debut at right back. Here's Zigiotti. Now Miyazawa. Ball down the line. Well, that'll be a big talking point then for the rest of the weekend. Should Awujo have been brought back off? But I think that's the right decision though from Skinner tactically, I have to say. Here's Miyazawa. Into Letitia. Now Lundqvist. Plays it into Park. Touch back and turn into Zigiotti. Lundqvist. Pirouettes into Park. Back to Lundqvist. Nice early signs there from Hannah Lundqvist. Janssen into Park. Miyazawa tidy pivot in there. Trying to create the space for the shot. Blocked well. And now they'll look to try and break away. Arsenal Mead in behind. That's overhit. And Tyler's Joyce will get there and knocks out to the left-hand side. She says, imagine playing your first game with 10 players. Yeah, it's one hell of an introduction for Hannah Lundqvist. It also means that she will more than likely start the next fixture. Next weekend's game for United, which is an FA Cup fixture. I mean, I imagine suspensions carry over into, because it's FA regulated, so it's not a bad one for Riviere to clear the suspension. It's probably not a game she was going to play anyway. But yeah, still a really silly red card, and it could kill their opportunities in this game. Phil says they want it for advertising. The Americanisation of football or rugby would be detrimental as they're built on fluidity. Yeah, I agree. Here's Little, ball out now to Mead, plays it into back, who flicks it on, and that's square at Fallon Tullis Joyce. And half chance really for Arsenal. Blackstenius made the most of it. But straight at Tullis Joyce, not enough power either really to threaten the goal. I think football's really stopped start anyway now with how important set pieces have become. But we'll see where it goes. Here's Caldente. Mead. Back to Mariona Caldente, plays it into Little. Mead. Here's Fox. And back now into Williamson. Fox. Williamson. Caldente. Back to Williamson down the line into Fox. Caldente looking again for Fox, who will try and get there. Sandberg, though, seeing her out of play well, and that will be a goal kick now. Maureen says Skinner should have removed her when she got her first yellow. I think you've got to trust a player. I think there would have been trust there that Riviere wouldn't make a tackle like that. I think it's uncharacteristic that she would take that kind of risk given the position they were in. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Arsenal undefeated at home under Renée Slagers in the WSL. And they've never failed to score in a WSL match under Slagers' stewardship. As it stands, though, that stat would change today. However, they would still remain undefeated. 15 minutes to play, though. Will we see a spark from either side in this game? Mallard, Schuler. Back now to Sandberg. Janssen. Now Tullis Joyce. Composed there and goes back to Janssen. Under pressure here, United. Lovely give and go between Janssen and Sandberg. Here's Zigiotti now. Plays it inside to Mallard. Lovely fluidity to this move. Mallard tries to take on Ford and is dispossessed. Probably should have shifted that rather than try to take on Caitlin Ford. Here is Fox. Now it's the overlapping run of Mead. Plays it into the half space where no one's made the movement. Blackstenius pulls wide to receive it. Ball into the box towards the back post. And Lundqvist does well there to deal with the threat of Russo making that run. to the rear post. Great ball from Freedom Arden, right sort of area. Rousseau, if she anticipates that. Oh, good ball, sorry, from Blacksenius. She anticipates that. Rousseau could have got ahead of the defender. But yeah. As I said, they didn't score against Tottenham. Oh, yeah, that was away from home though. No, I think I read the stat correctly. Okay, but yeah, no, the stat is that they haven't failed to score at home under René Slagers in the league. Caldente, ball into a good area. No one meets it. Hoyer asks, was the red card deserved? Yeah, absolutely. It's just silly from Riviere. The tackle in itself is fine. I mean, arguably, if she's not on a yellow already, is it another yellow? I'm not 100% sure, but it's a yellow card foul for me. I mean, more is it given as a yellow in that moment. But when you're already on a yellow, you make a challenge like that, it's always going to be a second yellow. It's really silly to do when you're already on a yellow card. So yeah, had to be a red for me. Here is Caldente out towards the left-hand side, where she was perhaps a little harsh. I think the yellow was fine in the first half, but you could argue it's a little harsh because it was her first foul. But yeah, no, that you can't have any complaints about the second one. Tyler's choice booked as well for time wasting there, went beyond any reasonable time to take the goal kick, and Ziggiotti bowled over there by Beth Mead, who I think would be fortunate to avoid the book, but she will. As he says, Jay giving away her spot. I don't think there's any risk that Hannah Lundqvist comes in and starts the big games over. I think Riviere's such a good player. And I think the fact that the suspension will only be for the FA Cup game will be fine. But I mean, they're going to rotate now anyway. Lundqvist and Riviere. I think Lundqvist also come in to rotate a bit at centre half because United haven't bought any other centre halves. So there'll be a lot of rotation, but I think Riviere will still be the clear first choice. Hoy says, bar for Leia to debut in a 10-person squad, but I'm curious to see what you think. Defended well from the front, I think has been the most important thing. We haven't really seen United get into the final third yet. She's the kind of striker where she won't offer you loads in sort of normal play. Here's Ford looking to take on Lundqvist. Does really well, Lundqvist, and is fouled by Caitlin Ford. Shooter's the kind of striker, yeah, well, you don't get loads in terms of her hold-up is okay. She's not really great at link-up play. She's okay at it, but again, not her best attribute. But where she's brilliant is running in behind. She's a classic poacher, classic centre-forward, wants to get in behind, wants to take shots at goal. They're the areas where she will be threatening. Double change coming for Arsenal then. It's going to be a debut for Smila Holmberg. And Victoria Palova's the other player coming on. The player has been linked with a move away from the Emirates in recent weeks. However, will be involved today, likely because of the lack of options they've got in midfield. But yeah. Here is Ford, pass inside. Puts it into the area, now headed on by Rousseau, and that's cleared away by Ziggiotti. Mark says, Jade's been a brilliant servant to the team, doesn't get the attention she deserves. Do you think her eagerness has something to do with her needing to look over her shoulder now? Possibly. It could just be the heat of the moment, which again you could argue is impacted by the fact that she has now got to fight for her squad place. But I think she's fairly secure. Here's Leah Schuler, carries the ball forward, waiting now for support into Mallard. Can she poke it on? Can't quite find Park. And Arsenal win it back, but probably the wrong choice there from Schuler. Didn't really have the support they wanted though, United. McCabe. Ball slipped in behind. Here's Blackstenius. Brilliant from Letitia in the initial challenge there. Held up well by Blackstenius. Ball in from Ford, looking for Rousseau. Sandberg heads down. Rousseau now. Really poor strike from Alessia Rousseau. Schuler. Great hold up. Now Miyazawa. Sandberg into Janssen. Schuler. Lovely touch on there into Ziggiotti. Now Mallard. And here come Manchester United. They need some support here, but obviously they're going to be quite conservative with their attacking approach. Miyazawa. Ball shifted across the defensive line. Letitia into Lundqvist now. Park. Lundqvist. And now the changes will come for Arsenal. It's going to be Smila Holmberg, presumably onto the right-hand side in place of Emily Fox. And it's going to be Victoria Pelova for Beth Mead. So presumably Caldente into a higher role. Finally. And it is Emily Fox making way. Okay. Intriguing. So Caldente will play higher. Will they push her into the 10 and push one of the strikers wide? Will they put... You'd like to think they'll put Caldente out on the wing now. But yeah. Hoya says, is it possible Shula was motivated by your comments about her hold-up play? Yeah, again, she's a brilliant footballer. She can still hold the ball up. I don't think her hold-up play is the elite level. But as I say, I think where she's best is running in behind. Change for United. Jess Park makes way and Lisa Nalsoon coming on. That almost feels like an admission of we're just going to sit deeper now from Manchester United. Park's a player who makes things happen. Nalsoon's a player who shuts the game down, but she will try and contribute in the attacking third. Flicked on in the air by Shula. Nalsoon back towards Shula, who can't quite get a touch on that ball. Here's Williamson. It's a shape change for Arsenal. Touched on well by Blackstenius into Holmberg. What can she make happen? Brilliant from Sandberg there, who just stands her up and wins the ball back, and Holmberg tries to shove her into the advertising hoardings. Arsenal with possession. Pelova. Ball into the box. Good hold up from Blackstenius. Blocked well by Janssen. Arsenal look like they're playing a back three with Holmberg almost operating as a right winger. And it's like a... I mean, this is fascinating to see they've actually done something. But they've got two strikers, Ford on the left, Holmberg on the right. Presumably when they defend, Holmberg will get back into right back. They've then got like a midfield three. Ball in from McCabe into the right sort of area. Headed on is Williamson. Midfield three of Little, Caldente and Pelova. And that ball had left the field of play there, so it will be a goal kick. Williamson didn't quite keep it in. There's also a call for a foul in the box there. And did it leave the field of play? Absolutely. Not sure what Williamson's complaints are about there. That was so far off. Chance now, Arsenal coming forwards. Ford takes aim. Tame effort though, drove it inside well. But just doesn't quite wrap her foot around this either way. It's straight at Tallis Joyce. Here's Janssen under pressure. I can't believe Arsenal are doing something. So it's Pelova on the right-hand side. She's tucking in when they attack. So she's playing on the right wing. She tucks in when they attack. This is something different from Arsenal. I have to give respect to Slagers for trying something here. Letitia stands up Rousseau well. That's a corner now. Much the frustration of Letitia. But I couldn't quite see which of them it came off. What can Arsenal make happen from this corner now? And it's Mariona Caldente over this. Ball into the area, headed away by Sandberg. And now Miyazawa hooks it away. Now Caldente. Pelova. Caldente. Williamson. Across to Little, who trying to open up the space with a shot. Sandberg does really well to stand her up. Holmberg now. Ball in. Good delivery. Brilliant header from Letitia at the back post. And here come Arsenal, McCabe in Akers. Can she pick out someone in the area? A cutback blocked by Miyazawa. Now Caldente, now soon out to defend. Here is Catley. At the moment, United all in their own penalty area. McCabe, brilliant interception from Ziggiotti, who just clears our line sensibly. Arsenal, though, the side with the most goals in the last 15 minutes. Well, they've got 5 minutes and additional time to try and extend that stat. It would help if they killed games off earlier. They wouldn't need to score so many goals at the end of matches. Catley. Now Ford. Now back to Ford. Catley again. Plays it inside. Here's Palova. Catley. Kim Little takes aim. Poor shot. Has it taken a deflection? I'm not sure, but it looks like the Arsenal players are getting into the area, so I think it's a corner. Yeah, they did take a touch off Miyazawa, which is perhaps why it flew quite as high as it did. And Lotte Ruben-Moy is the player that Arsenal will bring on next by the looks of it. Corner now. In towards the back post, claimed well by Talos Joyce. Presumably then, Arsenal are getting her ready. If they score, they can bring her on as an option at centre-back. But I'd be surprised if they worried about making a change at centre-back with it still 0-0. Williamson. Now Little. Out to Palova. McCabe. That is not as much of a foul as she's made that look, and Ziggiotti shakes her head. Amateur acting from Katie McCabe, but she's convinced the referee. Yeah, very little contact. McCabe does really well, throwing herself on the floor. Free kick for Arsenal now on the edge of the box. They are making a change at centre-half here. Catley off, Ruben-Moy on. Perhaps looking for a bit of aerial threat at corners, I'm guessing. And will they use it? Well, this will likely be a strike on goal from this free kick. And McKay bought it. Will she take it? It looks like it will be Katie McCabe. Stood over it. Cowden's over it as well. You'd think she'd be the better option. And it will be Mariona Caldente straight into the wall though. McCabe with the second ball. Can she recycle it? Delays too long. Caldente. Now Russo. Palova. Ball in. Headed on. Williamson. Into the area. Headed away. Cleared away by Mallard. Now McCabe. Recycles once more. Headed away by Narsoon. Here's Palova. Or Little, sorry. Williamson. Caldente. Drives it forwards. Now Little. Holmberg. Touches it on. 7 minutes of additional time. Now that's cleared away by Narsoon. 6 in the first half, 7 in the second half. In total, we'll have seen 103 minutes of football, sorry. Will we see a goal, though? Caldente. Great hold up from Russo. Knocks it wide to Ford, who beats Lundqvist. Now comes inside. Caitlin Ford looping towards the back post. Headed on by Ruben-Moy. Cleared away. And offside was Lotte Ruben-Moy. And now Arsenal urgent to get United to take this goal kick. Gigi says 7 extra minutes is crazy. What? Yeah, I mean, a couple subs. Fantastic Choice went down twice, so they can make tactical discussions. In fact, I think one of them might have been first half anyway. But yeah, I don't see where they've got 7 minutes from. I really don't. It's not like we had a VAR decision for the red card. I think that's very kind to Arsenal. 7 minutes. Not soon. McCabe. Now Ford. Ball into the area and that will bounce through to Tallis Joyce. He's going to slow it down as much as possible before Black Saints puts the pressure on her. And she does have to pick it up. But so far, 2 minutes of the additional 7 are gone. Tallis Joyce will wait as long as she can with the ball in her hands. Does now launch it forwards. Nalsoon somehow lost an uncontested duel there. Zighiotti sends it forward now, looking for Schuler in behind. Ruben Moy stands her up. Back to Williamson, who's dispossessed too easily there. Nalsoon. Zighiotti. Back to Nalsoon. Schuler. Now Lundqvist. Under pressure there. It's knocked out of play by Ford. And that will be United throw-in on this near side. Of course, as they argued about this red card for a good while. Not for 7 minutes though, Phil. That's a minute at best. Subs, minutes. It's not 7 for me. 5, I think, would have been fair. Still high, but fair. 7, though, is a bit egregious. Here's Little. Out now to Smila Holmberg. Here come Arsenal. Still carrying it forwards. Holmberg, great drive into Blackstenius. Blocked by Janssen, cleared away. Call from the fans there for a handball. Nothing from the players. There's a great block from Dominique Janssen. Great drive from Holmberg, created the opportunity. Blackstenius fires straight at the centre half. Holmberg again now. Arsenal's new attacking creative outlet coming from their backup right back. Ford. Now Caldente. Here's Kim Little. Palova. Holmberg. Ball in, and that's claimed well by Tallis Joyce. And she again will kill the time as much as she can. GT says United need to keep it in the corner. Yeah, I'm surprised they keep doing this kick it long and see who wins it thing. And again, this is where you want like Elizabeth Turland. McCabe completely misses that ball under zero pressure. With Moy launching it long, headed away by Letitia. Russo on hand to keep it alive. Shifts it out to the right-hand side. Pullover has to score here. It's at the front post. Saved by Tallis Joyce and kept on the field of play. Looked like she may push it wide for a corner. Pullover in a great position. Seen a little wide from Sandberg. That forces a shot to the near post. And Tallis Joyce, no issues saving that one. Feels has got to go across the keeper there, absolutely. The problem is Sandberg puts that pressure on her. It's really smart stuff from the Swedish fullback, just forcing her hand, really. Use her body to force the direction of the shot. Here's Mallard. Could United be the side that capitalise on this additional period? Mallard happy to slow it down. Miyazawa into Zighiotti. And Arsenal have brought on a lot of attackers. It does leave them a little light in defence. Here's Janssen. To be fair, they have got Holmberg, so they'll just slot back into a back four. In defensive areas, Tallis Joyce headed away by Little. Ford. Caldente tries to play it in behind. Russo now. Can she make something happen? Cuts inside. It's blocked away. Drops now for Little, who takes aim. Skims wide. And it's a goal kick. 90 seconds to play, sorry. Have United done enough to kill off this game? It's struck with venom by Little, but the way she catches it just skims it off wide. Needed to hit it straighter. But yeah, just strikes across the ball and makes it spin wide. Here's Nalsoon. United want to attack here. Nalsoon. Zighiotti. Out now to Sandberg, who can go wide. Finds Miyazawa in the half space. Zighiotti. Now Mallard. United can't overcommit, but boy, they'd love a goal to steal this away. Zighiotti tries to play it in behind, and that'll roll out for a goal kick. Ball quick off their line. They want to get this game restarted. Now Williamson, 40 seconds to play. Realistically, this is Arsenal's last chance. McCabe. Everyone's forward now for the Gunners. 30 to play. McCabe. Inside to Little. Williamson ball in. Cleared away. Caldente. Ziggiotti wins it back, and as time ebbs away, Arsenal have to be quick. 10 seconds left in this match. Caldente, now Little, dispossessed. And here's Schuler. Knocks it past Williamson. Palova recovers. Will that be that? It will. Full time here at the Emirates. Arsenal 0, Manchester United 0. In a game where a red card could prove decisive in the hunt for Champions League football. A win would prove decisive in the hunt for Champions League football. Neither side able to claim it. A draw here at the Emirates Stadium. That red card having indisputable impact on this match. United forced deeper. Arsenal, they went for it. They put United under pressure, but they didn't succumb. A strong, valiant defensive display from United thwarts Arsenal. And despite an early red card, they take a point away from the Emirates. I think it's a result that benefits United more than it benefits Arsenal. In terms of the impact on the league table, well, Arsenal stay third in the league, a point ahead of Manchester United. United unable to reclaim that third spot that they had up until the week before the winter break. However, just a point separating the two, and with the run Arsenal play now, they have Aston Villa in the FA Cup, not a nice tie. Then Manchester United in the Women's League Cup. Then they play Chelsea in the league away. A midweek FIFA Champions Cup game, a Sunday Champions Cup final or third playoff game. Then a potential midweek Leicester game after that, followed by Manchester City at home. And then Champions League football returns. It's a difficult schedule for Arsenal, a lot of congestion. I think United, yes, they've got to play Villa next in the league, but I think their schedule's kinder. And I think Arsenal, with being only a point ahead of them, is difficult. So I think that benefits United over Arsenal. The team that benefits the most, though, is Tottenham. If Tottenham beat Leicester, they'll go level on points with Arsenal. The only way they could be third is if they beat them 14-0, which I don't think they'll do. But Tottenham could very much close the points gap to those Champions League spots. As for Chelsea and City, well, they, with wins this weekend, could pull themselves into further confirmation of the Champions League. If Chelsea were to win, they would be 4 points ahead of Arsenal. If City win, they'll be 10 points ahead of the Gunners, which would all but confirm Champions League football for the side who currently sit top of the perch. But yeah, I mean, that could have huge impacts on the title race. We thought, on the Champions League race, we thought a winner today would put themselves in decisive position. Neither side could claim that victory. You think, though, just with that red card, it should have been Arsenal's game. They couldn't quite find that winning goal. Just too slow, too static in the final third. And ultimately, that's cost Arsenal, really. 3 points a day would have been huge. It would have lifted them well out of the reach of United for the time being and solidified that third place. Now it leaves them vulnerable, that draw. And I think given the red card, they really should have done more to turn that game into a win. But that is the first game back from the winter break. Arsenal drawing at home to Manchester United tomorrow. We kick off things as Chelsea take on West Ham United. And then later tomorrow, a game where there is a little bit of jeopardy due to the conditions, but it's Liverpool facing London City Lionesses. So look out tomorrow for that double header. For anyone looking for something to do with the rest of their day, we'll go and check out the videos we posted this week. Earlier this week, we were on the Women's Football Transfer Show, the Monday Transfer Show. So if you haven't seen that yet, we spoke about Smila Holmberg. We spoke about Stanway potentially joining Arsenal. If you're interested in Liverpool's transfer business, well, in the midweek we spoke about Denise O'Sullivan, and yesterday we posted a video looking at Arsenal. So any Arsenal fans that want to talk more or want to hear me talk more about Arsenal, go and check out the video from yesterday. That though is everything from me today. We are back tomorrow with more live streams. We're back on Monday with our weekend roundup. We're back on Tuesday with our live transfer show. So a lot of live streams happening over the next few days. We've got Wednesday off, and then we're straight into Women's FA Cup action. So looking forward to all of that. Big game though, big moments. We're back to discuss those on Monday. We're back tomorrow with more WSL action. That though is everything. Thank you guys very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.